the entrepreneurs and the business owners listening to this right now, if you really need a breakdown and understanding of creative development, just think about it from how do I start a conversation? How do I bring in my USP, my benefits? How do I close the sale, right? There's 3 steps. Brand story or origin story, or just a general overview of who you are. That's where how you get enter into a market.
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we get to discuss how to grow 1% every single day in both business and in self. Today, we have Nathaniel White-Joyal from Scott Digital, a company that is turning your vanity numbers into real revenue for your business. They focus on developing a transparent system that brings your brand, your sales system, your creative, and your goals to execute effective and profitable advertising. Thank you, Nathaniel, for joining us today.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
We were nerding out a little bit before we hopped on the call about the differentiations of different marketing agencies and how to look at numbers. And I can already tell I'm super pumped for this call. I'm super pumped to be able to pick your mind on the difference of what it really takes to drive profit, and not just profit, but drive real revenue and returns for the efforts that you're putting out there for your clients. So Nathaniel, can you give me a breakdown of where you came from, kind of why you started your business, and most importantly, what motivates you every single day to continue this process of growing your clients?
Sure. Wow, that's loaded. Let's get into it. So I got my master's degree in animation and documentary film, but like pretty quickly realized that nobody was going to see anything that I produced unless I figured out how to market it. Now, to be fair, I also came out of grad school in like 2007, so the world was kind of, well, a shit show, for lack of a better word. And, so I ended up kind of having to like scrape and figure out a few different things to do, right? So like I had to bartend, I did free video projects on the side. I did kind of like whatever I could. But what I understood pretty quickly after I made my first documentary is like, I just need to understand digital marketing. Like, how do I get reach? Because it's not going to work to just like put it out there on YouTube and hope. So I like that's what I did. I got into crowdfunding. I figured out, some analytics, and I leveraged that documentary into a role at a nonprofit doing their video production, but also doing their digital marketing. And I found some really interesting stuff working there. Like they were really, really immature when it came to analytics and data. And so I started to get really dialed in on that. And we're able to find some very interesting pockets of folks who were specifically interested in what this nonprofit was doing. And we were able to raise a ton of money. I got really into the startup industry after that. And so I worked for a few different startups, ran marketing, ran video programs. And my last startup was an online publication. And what we realized was that it was really about, the amount, like, yes, the quality of content mattered, but you also had to have you had to have a ton of content, right? Because you had to be able to test all of these different pieces against each other. So we were putting out 150, 200 videos a month. We were testing different presenters. We were testing different subjects. We were testing different, different horse breeds, because it was a horse publication. And so I took that, and like, as that startup kind of fell apart, I took that. I was like, you know what? This could be done for a lot of different industries. So I started doing performance creative. I took one of the performance marketers from there. He ran the paid ads. I did all the content creation. And what we found was that we could drive tons of really qualified traffic. But if the web experience was garbage, then, and people didn't know what to do when they got to the landing page, they would bounce. So we started partnering up with another agency that was building websites, and that agency owner and I decided, like, honestly, this is actually just one offering. And so we went through an M&A, we joined forces, we founded Scout Digital, and now Scout Digital is really focused on revenue generation for our clients. So the first step of what we always do is data transparency. Make sure that your analytics are clean, make sure that the attribution is correct. We make sure that they're set up properly, that all the goals are set up properly, the user journeys, all of that, and then build a dashboard. And so all of that data is easily um, accessible. You can report up and down on it. We work with, you know, companies that are kind of SMBs, and we also work with a lot of mid-market and enterprise level companies. So the people who we work with need to be able to report up and down the chain. And so that dashboard becomes their real, like their home. And then we continue to do the performance creative. And we've actually developed some systems that allow us to create a ton of content with every single element within that piece of content testable, right? Whether it's the actor, the cup, the background, whatever it is, we can test all of those different pieces. And so we can start to really get a good understanding of what visual and narrative elements are driving buying decisions. Obviously, you have to run those experiments somewhere. We run those, on paid media. And then we build out landing pages and do email marketing, because you can't really call yourself a revenue marketing shop if you're not going to pick up email on the back end, because it is the thing that drives the most revenue. But all of those different areas that we own, we own them because they're areas to run experiments. And one of the things that I say to everybody who I talk to is marketing it's not spray and pray. It's science, right? It's art and science. It's a combination of the two. But you have to be ready to run experiments. And if you have theses and you're ready to run and you want to prove them, that's how you do it, is you run those tests across those landing pages, in paid media, on email, and you run those tests, and you can gain incrementally over time and prove them out. Something I think about all the time is, we're killing it if we have a 5% conversion rate, right? Maybe 10%. But the fact is, that means that we're failing 90% of the time. So I would say that really our specialty is in failing the least, but it's still a lot of failure.
To run good tests, you have to have failures. At least that knows it teaches you what's right. But you've hit on some really valid and incredible points in the development of your story and the development of your business here. And the first thing that I think resonated with me and should resonate with the listeners here most is the value that you saw in the attribution and the data. As a business owner or an entrepreneur listening to this right now, if you do not resonate with that, you are not a top level business owner or entrepreneur. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't know if that hurts or stings a little bit, but if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And to have clear attribution, to have clear data means that it gives you real answers around the things that you find to be fictitious, like where are my customers coming from? Or is Meta driving me any revenue? Or is Google working? When people come in and they say the first thing they want to do as a business is help you see and give you clarity on your success and failures, they're there for you as the business owner. They care about the growth of your business. So incredible, Nathaniel. I mean, the way that you broke that down and your progression of that coming from actually being a creator and being a creative individual, and then realizing the first error is attribution and data, and then leaning into that and then allowing your creative self to now flourish in the position that you're in while having the data and having the team behind you to test what works and what doesn't. Super powerful. Did you find that even in today's market, when you guys are with your agency and you're looking and comparing against other agencies, do you find that the lack of attribution, or say the lack of clarity in the data, is still the main problem that you're solving in today's market, or has evolved to something else?
No, I think it is the main problem that we're solving for. I mean, honestly, I think you could build an entire, and there are, right? Like there's Hockey Stack, there's Triple Whale, there's, I can't remember the other one. There's another really good attribution company out there. Sure. Right. But like, if you are not focused on attribution and really making sure that you have it right, not just assuming you have it right because but digging in, making sure that you're double checking, that you're confirming, then you're operating blind. You have to go in with eyes open. And so, it's funny, right? Because my head of product, who's comes from a data science background, she's so sharp, but she does err on the side of caution, which is great because I err on the other side, right? I'm like, hey, everything is amazing. But the reason I think that's so important to have somebody who is looking at the data and who is questioning everything and is literally not she's so committed to the validity of the data that I think sometimes she sells us a little short. And like, I'm okay with that because at least I know when she produces a profitability report for me or for one of our clients, I know that I can say really honestly, this is right. And it's been proven. Like the data is correct. The attribution is correct. We have gone down every path. We have tried to take credit for as little as possible because that's how we know that we are being really honestly as accurate as possible. And maybe we could take credit for more, but the fact is that we want to hold ourselves as accountable as possible to that data. And I think that that's something that I do see all the time, right? So I was talking to another client and, they're like, they have somebody else running their digital marketing. And that person is saying to them, well, I mean, we had 46 form submissions. I'm not really sure exactly where they came from, but like we started spending more money on digital ads. So that incrementality must be that. No, it's not. And in fact, even my, I am not some sort of analytics guru, but even with my limited understanding, like I can go in and be like, no, you got 6 form submissions from paid ads. You like it's right here. And I can actually see which ads they're connected to. So I think it's something that people really do struggle with, and they make assumptions about what they can and can't do without digging in further. Yeah. And I think that curiosity is so important for business owners because you have to prove out your assumptions. You have to prove out your theses. Otherwise, maybe you get lucky, but you're not driving incremental growth.
I'm gonna bring up a big name right now that is all over social media, Tai Lopez, who's, I don't know if you're familiar with him, right? He's a big guy in this SMMA world. And it's something that if you're a business owner, you're probably getting hit with Tai Lopez's ads and not a single of his trainings, not a single one of his interior courses. I've paid for them. I know, bring up attribution, right? It shows you how to start a business. It doesn't show you how to be profitable. And that's the differentiation between an individual like Nathaniel here and the rest of the competition is that when you start off into this venture and you're actually going after growing your business, you need to understand the numbers that grow your business. One of the interviews that Ty had back in the day said that there's one defining factor of success within the business realm, and it's called conscientiousness. And that is broken down into 4 sub-facets of hard work, organization, perfectionist, and prudence. You're a business owner, you're working hard. You started a company, you have to be some level of organized. You didn't burn the ship down yet, so you got to be double checking your work and you got to be some level of perfectionist. But prudence is defined as the ability to understand the right decision. And you do not have that without attribution and data. So great point. I wanted to emphasize on that because I think it's a lost art that is not being communicated well enough across the board to small and even medium to large enterprise sized businesses of how valuable.
Oh my God.
The conversation I'm hearing recently about enterprise level businesses just shifting over to a profit base or a revenue generating base focus instead of a brand based focus. It's like, have they just started caring about their attribution, right? Like where has this been the whole time? But the other factor I want to dive into that leads past the attribution is what you really leaned into, the differentiation that you have at Scout, which is the testing, the ability to find out what's real and not real in the sense of working in the growth of the business. You want to dive in a little bit for our listeners, kind of a basic test that you would run if you started to bring a new client in, just to understand your starting points.
Absolutely. So let me start at the beginning. So when we onboard a client, the first thing we do, right, we get into the data, and like that data is going to tell us what tests to run. And so a lot of times we have different tests that we run across different parts of the funnel. But when we start to think about like the content that we want to create, so the way that we'll do that is we'll say, okay, what's your narrative? Let's start there. What are you promising your client? What are the benefits that somebody is going to get from purchasing your product? Great. Let's break apart those benefits. Each one of those benefits, like we will test against each other and see which one is producing the best. But beyond that, you take that benefit and then you start to build content that rolls up into that benefit. How are we saying it? How are we showing it? We'll do product versus lifestyle. And then once we're in lifestyle, we run small incremental tests there as well. So let's say we're doing a lifestyle shoot for, a headphone company, right? Okay, so show them walking on the street, show them, in the club, but let's take them walking on the street. So we want to test different streets. We want to test different colors of headphones. We want to test, street in the country, street in the city, like, and actually, like, I want to get really, really small tests, because if you test too much all at once, it's too much data, right? And so understanding that, like, yeah, okay, lifestyle outperforms product video or product photo, whatever it is. It does in this one instance and with this one ICP, but why? And like, what is it about? Like, what is it about that particular lifestyle video that's outperforming? We don't know, because we're not testing different lifestyle videos against each other. So you have to be running all of those different tests at the same time. And you have to assume that, like, look, there are going to be some benefits that outperform other benefits, and you can lean into those. But it also depends on how you're measuring that performance, right? If you're measuring it based on purely on revenue, well, you might find that one benefit, like, is really bottom of the funnel, but as you try to bring more people into the funnel and you're trying to really test for reach, it might be a different benefit, but it may not be performing at the same revenue level as benefit, C. So that would be like how we think about running a lot of our tests. And then after we run those content tests and we get onto the website, there are specific things that really drive conversion rate on a landing page, right? So site speed is number one. And we spend a lot of time making sure that all of our landing pages run, that perform really high and have great site speed. And then we start to break into, like, the different content, the different benefits, the headlines, the call to actions. And, at the end of the day, you have to test the offer, right? So like, which offer is resonating? What are you going to get? Is it going to be buy two, get one? Is it going to be 20% off? There's a lot of different things to test. And it doesn't always have to be discounting, right? Like, you just have to have like a bunch of offers in your pocket that you have to test over and over and over again. So that would be another way that we would run it. And then, email you pick up again on the back end. If people have kind of shown interest in this one offer, you might have like another one that you want to test through email, and bring people back into it, and don't have it just be a funnel, but have it be an hourglass, have it be something that consistently goes around and around, so that you're really driving LTV of your clients, or sorry, of your purchasers. Because yeah, ROAS is important. Yeah, ROI is important, but lifetime value is what drives profit.
What truly drives profit. And for the entrepreneurs and business owners listening to this right now, in the last 3 minutes, do you feel like you want to sit there and test all the shit that Nathaniel just brought up? Do you think that you have the capacity to run your business as well as test all these different things? The granularity of the background or the granularity of the color of your product in different settings of what's going to work and what's not going to work? Because I can promise you, he is hitting the nail on the head of what changes the difference from $100 cost per acquisition to a $40 cost per acquisition, AKA you not being profitable to you being profitable in your advertising efforts to make it say it's worth it. It is the granularity of the changes in the micro little details that resonate with your consumer base in ways that most business owners that aren't in the marketing field can't fathom, because you're not studying psychology daily, right? This is a psychology, as you said earlier, it is a combination of art and science. That science is psychology. The art is the beauty that you put together with it. So to have somebody in your corner like Nathaniel and his team to be able to put these tests together, to be able to make sure they're aligned with your business and your goals, and then be able to put in the sweat equity to separate out these granular aspects to find out what really works, is what will help drive your business forward without having you lose the hair on the top of your head. That's really the difference there. So Nathaniel, let's dive a little bit more into who the ideal customer is and talk about who you really like to work with.
Sure.
Down, who walks through your front door and you're like, I'm about to knock it out of the park with this client.
Yeah, we like to work with direct to consumer e-commerce brands. We'll work with a large range, but our real specialty is in wellness and family products, some CPG. We have a big CPG expertise in house. We got folks from 7th Gen, from My Web Grocer. You know, my wife works for Ben and Jerry's, and so we constantly talk about this stuff. But should you know, you get a little of that expertise, right? Not all the time, but a little bit. So that's really where we like to spend our time. We do some B2B lead gen, but there's so many factors in that that create, I don't know. You have a sales team that's trying to take credit from the marketing team's work, and the marketing team's trying to take credit for the sale. So direct to consumer e-commerce brands that are doing anywhere from $5 to $35 million a year in business, they got to be able to have the money to run the tests, right? Like, if you can't spend $10,000 a month with us, then then we're not going to be able to actually run the tests of significance that are going to drive revenue. And so you can, $3,000 a month, you can run some tests, you can get some understanding, but not in any real meaningful way, because they just take too long, right? Because test of significance is statistical analysis, right? It's not me because I want the money. I do want the money. We're all in business to make money and help other people and all of those things. But the fact is that, like, if you're spending $3,000 a month on Facebook ads, the data that you're getting is, you're not running tests of significance within that month. It's probably taking you 9 months to run those tests of significance and get meaningful, actionable data. And that with a company that's doing $5 million a year in business, that is too long to make those decisions on your paid media.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand why that happens. I think a lot of people walk into a marketing agency like yours, and they're like, oh, you're going to test a bunch of stuff, so you'll find success very early. Well, no. In the effort of testing, you're finding out where your bad spend is and removing it as fast as possible. Your success is compounded on itself over time, but the goal of testing is to find out what doesn't work early and cut it off and get spend out of there, right? And you brought this point up before that I really wanted to hit on, was the idea of old school ideology of what campaign and marketing and advertising was, right? If we look back 10 to 15 years ago, everything was a campaign. You have a campaign, right. You put it out onto a billboard, you hope and pray it wins. You have a campaign, you put it into direct mail, you throw it in a newspaper, you hope and pray it wins. In today's level of advertising, which, let's be very clear, again, entrepreneurs and business owners listening to this right now, Nathaniel is in the 21st century and beyond of what advertising is supposed to do. And if your media buying company is not talking to you in this way, they're not in today's day of advertising. If they're saying we need a new offer, we need a new campaign, no. You need to understand what works inside of that campaign. You need to understand how to find success within that campaign. There's always success to be found, because a lot of times people stop a foot away from gold. And in today's market, the way we can advertise on every digital platform now allows us to have daily optimization and daily view of spend and a clear understanding of what works and what doesn't work, allowing you to put in the sweat equity to find success and to be able to scale. So, Nathaniel, I can't tell you enough how much of a fresh breath of air speaking to someone like you is, because not only do you get it, but you're actually putting it into work and laying clear expectations out for the client, and not stopping at the media buying, but going all the way to website optimization and then CRM development and optimization on the back end with email, SMS, and the nurturing within the sequence, so that you're getting the attention of the consumers, you're nurturing them and closing them correctly, and then you're ensuring you have nothing that falls through the cracks or no money left on the table with your email and SMS on the back end. So, you've brought up some very unique ways that Scout runs business, and the way that you and your company really develop these campaigns, and a scientific testing method that gives you real answers, real scalability, and real room for optimization to move forward and to really find success for your clients. When you go against another business, another agency that is doing the same type of testing structure, right, and then to put that effort in, where do you find your uniqueness specifically within Scout?
It's a good question, right? Because you never really. So we just lost a pitch, one that I thought we were going to get, and I was definitely bummed about it. And I got some feedback from the company, which I thought was super helpful, right? So what we found is that they were able to talk about their incrementality testing in a more actionable way, and so what I found was that they were able to talk about like the steps that they would take to grow incrementally over time. One of the other pieces that we found was that, we are not believers in a month-to-month contract because our programs don't work that way. Our you know our programs take 6 to 18 months to really to show profitability. They just do. And people who are telling you that they don't are, well, I mean, look, we have a lot of our own first party data. We have a lot of third party data. And yes, that allows us to kind of hit the ground running with a lot of our clients. But the fact is that it still takes time. It's always going to take time. And I think that one of the things that I would say that really separates us is our ability to like honestly assess the situation, tell you when we're succeeding, tell you when we're failing, and own it on both sides. Uh, yes, data transparency is really critical, but we're not going to spin that for somebody. We're going to come and we're going to tell you how it is and what the data says, not how I feel about it, because how I feel about it doesn't matter. Like I can see green shoots and I can tell you about the green shoots, but like it's about data and it's about revenue generation. And I think that the big difference between us and other companies is that we're just going to hold ourselves accountable to revenue. And that doesn't mean that we're making any sort of guarantees, but we will figure out how to be revenue positive and profitable for our clients because that's what we're focused on. And we have a lot of smart people here, a lot smarter than me. So
Oh, I love that. They're taking the Jocko extreme ownership ideology and putting it directly into business. And again, entrepreneurs, business owners, when someone says that to you, when they're saying, hey, hell or high water, I'm coming here to bring revenue into your company, not to sell you on good looks or vanity metrics or whatever it might be, it should give you a level of comfort that the company is at least aligned on what your business goals are, which is growth, right? That's why you bring an agency in the first place. So Nathaniel, incredible stuff. I mean, seriously, from top to bottom, I got to ask you though, to have this level of confidence, to have this level of understanding of marketing, you have to go through some trials and tribulations, some difficulties throughout all of this to really build the confidence. Do you have a story that you think our listeners would resonate with, or potentially a story of a challenge that your company faced that changed the way that you do business?
Sure. So we were working with we had a really big client. It was the majority of our revenue, and we kind of bent over backwards for them for years, and at the end of the day, we got to a point with it where we were kind of being asked to deal with things that like security issues, and like we don't deal with security issues. We don't know how to do that, and we kept saying like, hey, that's not us, that's not us, that's not us. And I would say that like, and so we ended up losing that client. I had to let people go, and that was tough. But the fact is that when I look at that incident, I say to myself, like that was a real opportunity for us to grow. It was a real opportunity for us to shift our offering away from being this big website agency and really focusing in on this very clear revenue generation offer and going all in on it. And so we stopped taking all things from all comers and got very, very focused on an ICP. We got very focused on an offer, and that's where we're going. And listen, I hear both sides of the coin, right? Like there are some agencies out there that do want to be all things to all people, and there's some agencies that don't. And we have gotten ourselves very focused in this one area because we think that drives the most value for our clients, not necessarily just being able to solve every single problem they come to with us, because I think you can kind of grow into that, but there's not a full service agency, right? Like even if you go work with a Jack Morton or a Genuine or, one of those big public agencies, like, yeah, they can do all things, but they're like a bunch of small agencies working within a big agency. And so that was really like a great lesson for me is like, one, don't overhire. Be lean, like understand how to really drive growth within your own company without bringing in too many people and having people sit on the bench waiting for projects to come in, and then also be really clear about your offering, and don't be the one who's trying to solve every single problem. Be okay saying, this isn't us. These are the people you want to talk to. Because if you try to take on things that are not your core offering and you fail, it gets held against you and you end up losing big clients over it.
Such a powerful statement for everybody listening. And, I can't emphasize it enough. The wrong client will cost you more money than it ever brings in. It costs you more headache. It costs you more time. And I couldn't agree with you more. Honing in on who you are, what the vision is there of the vision of the business and what problem they're there to solve, and being very granular with that allows you to get that confidence and speak the way that you do, Nathaniel, the way that you're able to enter into a room, talk to them about this is how you actually grow your business, and from step A to step Z. I don't know how to get you access back to your Facebook page or help you with your security problems, but when it comes to growth, this is what we do. This is where we live. This is how we go about things. I love it. I love it. Let's move into the future a little bit. I'd love to hear it. Very intellectual, have your stuff together, understand the business, understand what we're really here for as marketers. Where do you see the industry going the next 3 to 5 years? And add to the back end of that, where do you see Scout going in the next 3 to 5 years?
So I see the industry, like, I think there's going to continue to be a struggle with attribution, right? Like, it's not the way it used to be where it's, where you can target your roommate on Facebook. Can't do that anymore, unfortunately. That was fun, and we all had a good time doing that. But that's going to shift, and we're going to have to really, focus on using content to target. And so that is where I think things are going to go. So I think that we're going to have to continue to work really hard on attribution. And there's going to be new models out there. There's going to be new ways of finding that level of attribution. And we're going to have to continue to dig in and say, okay, Google's changing this, Facebook changing that, TikTok did this, analytics did that. And that's just going to be something that is going to constantly be a struggle for business owners. It just is. And so I think Scout is going to end up continuing to focus in that area, but then, continue to focus on that content development. And if you apply the scientific method to your growth plan, I'm not saying that works with branding, right? It doesn't. I mean, you can test different branding and different positioning with the same method, and that's probably important. But if you focus on that scientific method and you're running tests in your digital marketing, you will eventually be successful because you will find those pockets of consumers who want your product. Look, there are going to be people out there who don't have product market fit, and you need to figure that piece out first before you start doing that. But the fact is that, that's going to be where the market goes. And we're going to see more and more that, especially with like data privacy coming in, we're going to see more and more that targeting with content and running out these experiments in your content, on your landing pages, in your email, is what is going to drive that growth that you're looking for. Because we're not always going to be able to, people are going to opt out, right? We're already seeing it over and over again. So we can't always attribute every single piece. So we have to say, okay, we have to look at different metrics to measure. MER is going to continue to be a big thing that people measure. That doesn't always work, right? Like MER works okay for companies that are only online. MER doesn't work great for a company that's in retail and in, and online and, have big ticket items. But that it is going to be something that you have to consistently think about. So like those metrics are going to consistently change, and we just are going to have to continue to think about them and make sure that we're out in front.
I couldn't agree with more. I do believe that attribution will continue to be more and more difficult as privacy becomes much more of a factor with the younger generation coming up, and the fact that they all want to have their own rights and things of that nature. But one thing that you hit on that I'd like to elaborate for the listeners a little bit, and if you could dive into this, it'd be great. The difference in developing your creative and understanding how to change your creative approach to align a little bit better with what you're going after as a business. Can you give somebody an example of the difference between a top of funnel style creative and a bottom of funnel style of creative?
Sure. I think like top of funnel creative is brand awareness, right? Like just talking about it's like a brand video is top of funnel, right? This is our brand, this is what we do, this is who we're for, this is our story. Like that brand narrative is top of funnel. Bottom of funnel, you start to really get to like a call to action, right? The offer video, that's bottom of funnel. And like I would say that the benefit is probably middle funnel, right? Where you're starting to really get down on like, okay, this is the benefit that we offer to our client. And look, you should have a call to action in every single video you have anyway, because I mean, again, you're trying to sell your product, but you should be okay with the fact that, okay, we're going to just have like an introductory video that introduces the brand to everybody. And then at the bottom, we're going to have a very specific offer that, we try to get across the finish line with.
The entrepreneurs and the business owners listening to this right now, if you really need a breakdown and understanding of creative development, just think about it from how do I start a conversation? How do I bring in my USP, my benefits? How do I close the sale, right? There's 3 steps.
Mhm.
Brand story or origin story or just a general overview of who you are. That's how you enter into a market. Then once they know who you are, now you want to know why you're different. Let's bring in your USPs, your benefits, your guarantees, all of that into the bottom of funnel. Now they know who you are. They know why you're different. Let's close them. Let's move into either
Right.
offers, incentives, direct call to actions, FOMO, all of these factors that come into the bottom of funnel allows you to actually close the customer. So great, Nathaniel, great breakdown and explanation. And for business owners, make sure you understand that because we are 100% moving into that era. Every time Meta and Google update their algorithm and say that we have better AI technology and we're doing more things, so you have to do less with your media buying, they're taking away your opportunities of finding those target market fits with the targeting capabilities and leaning more into your creative to say, how is your creative speeding to the market? So make sure you understand how it's actually resonating with your consumer base. Nathaniel, loving this. Love the overview that you have. I have to ask you, how do you find your Kaizen? For the business owners listening and everyone out there, Kaizen is a Japanese business term that means 1% progression every single day in both business and in self. Nathaniel, you're a super smart individual. Your business is booming. You're going in the right direction. How do you stay on top of educating yourself, keeping yourself on top as a business owner, as well as an individual with your family?
I prioritize my family first. It's incredibly important. That's where I fill my tank. Look, I think a lot about like mental health and wellness. I meditate twice, 3 times a day, hit the sauna. Those are things that I do to really to grow myself, right? And to be calm and to be centered. Because then I can come into a conversation with a potential client and say, hey, you know, I can get thrown off in a meeting, but I can bring it back to a centered place and always come from a place of what's best for the client. And sometimes what's best for the client is not always working with me. Sometimes I tell them, I said today to somebody that I didn't think we were a good fit. And I was sorry, but we're the wrong fit for them. And so I sent them on their way. But I think that they'll be better off if they go and work with a company that is more aligned with what they need in the moment. And so understanding and owning failure, understanding how to learn from that failure, that's how I get better every day. Is by saying, okay, I failed here. How do I get better? Right. And I do it in parenting too, right? Like you have to, right? Getting super heightened with your kid doesn't help. Being able to be calm and conscious with them because they're going to have temper tantrums, just like your clients are going to have temper tantrums. How do you stay calm in that moment and help them find a solution and be solutions oriented? Because even with a 1-year-old, with a 6-year-old, it doesn't matter. Helping them be solutions oriented, helping them figure out how to solve their own problems. That's how you get people to grow. And honestly, helping your clients figure out how to solve their own problems is also really valuable for their own growth. And I know that Well, you don't want if your clients start solving all their own problems, they're not going to need you. Well, okay, great. Honestly, great. If they're being successful, that's great. And I'm okay with it. The fact is that we solve problems that they can't solve because they don't have time for it. You called it out earlier, right? Like they don't have time for it. So that's how I'm constantly trying to get better, is by owning failures and learning from them.
And finding your center. I love that. Always being able to find your center point. So no matter what happens throughout your day, throughout your call, throughout your normal life, you're able to always bring that back to, hey, we're here for the same goal. We're here to help grow your business. If I'm the right guy, I'll be here for you. If I'm not the right guy, I'll tell you. Right. And I absolutely love that. All right, Nathaniel, we're a little over time, but I got one last bonus question for you. That's it.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of the book Atlas Shrugged?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I love the concept of Atlas Shrugged, right? For the listeners out there that haven't heard of it, the concept behind Atlas Shrugged is that us as business owners move the world forward every single day. We put the world on our shoulders. And yes, ideas and concepts are great, but until they get added into a business operation, they have a structure, it doesn't change the world. Atlas Shrugged is a book that talks about what would happen if all of us business owners, you, Nathaniel, me, the listeners right now, what if we just shrugged off our business and walked away from being business owners? And explains how the world would look if there was no business owners in the world. So my question to you, Nathaniel, is that if today Atlas Shrugged and you walked away from your agency, I walked away from mine, Jeff Bezos walked away from Amazon, the restaurants were still there, the home improvement materials were still there, everything still existed, but no business owners or no running and functioning businesses. What would be the first company that you would start tomorrow?
You know, it's funny. I think it probably would be a documentary film company.
That's awesome.
I still have a love for documentary film. You know, I think it's actually kind of like one of the best ways to tell a story about what's going on in the real world. The other thing is a whiskey and steak restaurant. I'm a huge collector of rare whiskey. I love cooking steak, and honestly, like my dream is a 5-seater restaurant. You don't get to order. I cook the steak. I pair it with the whiskey. No, don't ask for wine. It's not available. And no, it's all red meat all the time.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Either going back to your roots and going back into documentaries or moving forward and starting a restaurant. But nonetheless, you know what you like. You designed your structure, your business, and your life in a position where, you know, it's awesome to hear from an individual like yourself who has evolved from, I love what I do. I found a hole in the market. I found people to support me in that hole that were professionals at what they did. And we created a business that is designed to help companies move forward. And that is Scout Digital. Nathaniel, for the listeners out there, how would they connect with you? What's the easiest way for them to find you?
I'm all over LinkedIn. You can definitely find me there. You know, try to get as much content out as I possibly can. I missed my daily post today. Don't hold it against me. But you can also get in touch with me right off the website, nat@scoutdigital.com. I'm easy to get a hold of. You can find me out there. But yeah,
Perfect.
Website, LinkedIn, those are the best places to find me.
Love it. We're going to have all that information below in the description. If you guys have made it to the end of this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And do not hesitate. If you are an e-commerce business that is focused around revenue, focused around generating profit, and understanding that scientific testing is needed to truly find success in today's market, reach out to Nathaniel at Scout Digital, connect with him and his team, and move forward and actually putting yourself in a position of your business that is transparent, that is open and understanding of what's going on, and that gives you real answers and real results at what it takes to grow your business profitably. Nathaniel, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. And for the listeners, we'll see you on the next one.